Hello and welcome to another episode of The Second Messiah. In the previous episode, the Sassanid invasion began, attacking a Gothic camp on the border near Alexandria. Our camp was breached and was under serious pressure by the enemy, but the arrival of Roderick with a reinforcement army tilted the battle back in our favour, and the Sassanids were defeated. However, there were more Sassanids coming. They pushed us back and were able to corner one of our armies. Facing a battle against a huge amount of heavy cavalry, the Gothic warriors were overrun when the enemy's cavalry just charged through their thin lines. The enemy then used horse archers to pick us off, meaning the battle ended in defeat. Roderick was forced to pull back our defensive position. We're no longer able to hold the enemy out of Africa, but we might be able to use the Nile to contain them. He fell back to defend Alexandria, whilst other forces prepared to stop them from moving south into our core domain. Let's see how this continues. We weren't the best of dynasties. There was Vithercus the king, Edgar his bastard brother, and me, his brother by marriage. Edgar was not favoured by his father, and generally hated the whole family. I joined the family late, barely knowing Vithercus, but being blessed as a more legitimate prince than Edgar. But I was not a true prince, not to Vithercus. Is that why he treated me, still treats me like some aide, some quartermaster to his own ambition? It got worse as time went on, as he became reliant on me to run his kingdom, but did not seem to care for what I was doing. And I did so much, established our church, conquered the people of the deep desert, gave his people the practical leadership they needed to complete the spiritual guidance he provided. And here, with his mission for God fulfilled, I await in the world that will not be saved, doomed to be the keeper of those who did not believe or were not wealthy enough to resettle to Africa. I might as well be the king of Italia. I am their leader in all but name. And if the schism occurs while I am here, I guess that will be my consolation. Why does he not call me back? I am a prince, was a prince. Why not have Roderick and his cadre of pet generals defend the old world? I hope that God does not keep his promise to the king. I hope the world continues as it is, sliding down into darkness. I hope that I will reach the extent of my years and die, and that the news of my death will remind the king of my existence, remind him that I was loyal and true until the end despite everything. And then when the church splinters, when the governors are overthrown, when the kingdom falls, I shall laugh in whatever afterlife I end up in. While the Sassanids are making a nuisance over in Egypt, we've got a few issues back over here in the core domain, particularly the Western Germanic separatists, which have their navy at sea, which could land at any one of our docks around here. I've got Vidimir taking troops towards Carthage to defend it. He can't quite reach, but he'll be in reinforcement range. And Guylamir is going to come down towards Rhegium, which the enemy probably can't actually reach because they have to go all the way around the islands, but he'll be in a position to defend if the enemy land at Syracuse as well, because he can move right in and counterattack any offences the enemy makes. We've also got a tiny issue, which is an Atropatene navy, which is just hanging around. They've been there for ages, so I don't really expect them to move or attack me, but I've got forces with Edgar just in case they do. I also spotted on the diplomacy there that the Huns are very close by. They're just up in the mountains north of Italia, meaning they've come towards me. I thought they were moving into Gaul, but they're actually getting closer to me, so I need to keep my guard up. You might also remember that my mission now is for Vithercus to reach the source. You can see he's making some decent progress coming up now on Leptis Magna. And he's going to be able to make pretty fast progress from here because all the roads are quite well developed in Eastern Africa. But before any of that, the Sassanids make a standoff against Roderick, but they don't attack. That almost definitely means they're bringing in reinforcements, and we can even see a stack further back there on the right. I also learned that more assassination has been going on. This time it's only wounding, luckily, but inconvenient that we keep losing the commanders, particularly of the Shields of Eden, so I'm just replacing in all these level 1 commanders who aren't going to do much good. So the plan for these forces and the forces coming back from the battlefront, the Watch here, was to plug the gap because I thought the Sassanids might move south, but as you can see, since they've just bunched up over by Roderick, I might as well start moving up towards them, in particular sitting on the road. I need to check, as you can see here, that there are no invasion forces about to cross by sea, which has happened several times. Amalric just checking the roads to make sure nothing's coming. Looks pretty clear, so I'm going to move all my forces up towards the Sassanids. I might need to go in and attack the Sassanids before they reinforce, especially if there are lots of reinforcements on the way, and I can keep building up this army because it's depleted and recruiting new troops on the way as well, so the strength will gradually be increasing as we move. To make things even easier, I'm going to recruit a new general in Alexandria and get this guy to just mobilize a few troops and all the mercenaries he can find. From his position, he would reinforce Roderick if the Sassanids make a crossing of the river this turn. So we're going to avoid having a big numerical disadvantage basically with all these extra forces, and I've got plenty of money to do it. You can see those Germanic separatists didn't really attack anywhere, they just sailed out into the middle of the sea. Still not sure what they're doing, had to move Geilemir back to Neapolis to defend, but we'll just see what they do. They're taking attrition the longer they wait, so it doesn't matter if they just flounder around because they'll die in the process. The Huns have moved a tiny bit closer, they're just creeping around. They're now in the territory of Verona, just to the north, so they're about 1 to 2 turns march away from my forces here. It is an anti-Hun army specifically though, so I'm not hugely worried unless they bring a lot of numbers. The Atropatane forces moved closer to Egica. It looked like they might be tempted to come here and land somewhere in Western Africa. Egica didn't really have anywhere particular to go because I'm not sure where they're going to go, so I'm going to just stick him in Tingis and see if they land anywhere, and we'll immediately counterattack if they do. Now the Sassanids indeed bring in reinforcements, but not to do what I thought they were going to do. Instead, they move south and then split off some forces from their fortifications on their side of the river to come and join them, ending in an even battle against my reinforcements coming from the south. We've seen a battle like this quite recently. There was one almost identical to it in the previous episode, where the enemy are attacking an encampment and we've got a bigger reinforcement army coming from outside to try and help out. We won it before, but with heavy casualties, and this time the army inside the camp is already damaged, and the enemy has plenty of onagers and archers to help out in a camp assault, so we'll have to be careful, but it's definitely possible to come out on top here.
I didn't think what Shapur was offering was worth it, and I was right, and that man doesn't pay well. The Shencha, on the other hand, was giving out double, a much more respectable price. And I think I will be doubling the pay again once the loot we take from the Goths is all counted. Plus, eating their bread does mean less expenses for me. There's enough money floating around here to make a shrewd warrior very rich, I'm telling you. I should be able to go back home after this. No more orders or cold nights. Unless I have a kid. That would need a couple more campaigns to pay for, I think.
Once again, Gothic forces prepare inside their camp to face the Sassanids, who again are attacking from two angles, the east and the south, the onagers coming in from the east, and both sides having lots of heavy cavalry who are going to come out in front of the infantry to begin an attack on the camp right away. Those lancers have a decent chance of smashing our lines if we're not careful. We've got reinforcements coming in from the north, handy, but the enemy's reinforcements coming in from the northwest are likely going to intercept them, so it looked at first like this was going to be a battle between the two armies separately. I'm rushing to get my own cavalry forces out of the way of the enemy's charge, not knowing where the enemy were going to come in initially. They're coming in wedge formation, clearly intending to just smash into the camp, and they could quite do that because I've only got thin lines of men defending the entrances. Here, this bed of stone slows down some of the lancers, so they come in at a walking pace and aren't able to do any damage to the Gothic warband, who would have been wiped out by a full charge, meaning that flank's going to go okay. Over here we've got a spear line in spear wall formation. The enemy again don't make a particularly powerful charge into it, plus they're charging into a spear wall which is decent at holding them off, so again that attempt at breaching the camp fails. Another attempt occurs. Here they move cavalry onto these stakes I'd put out to stop cavalry. Many of the horses are killed, and the ones that aren't killed came in so slowly trying to dodge them that again the Gothic warband defending the entrance are able to safely begin an engagement with those shock cavalry, which will be okay. On another front, some Legio took a heavier charge, taking losses, but now, being a heavier unit, they're able to resist it and start driving the enemy horses back, helped by the fact that we've got archery towers, slamming bolts into them at point blank range. The enemy's infantry though are now coming in to engage and follow up on the attacks made by their cavalry, plus their archers are going to come in and deplete our numbers from range while these battles go on, so it's only just begun. Here on the southern approach, you can see those spear walls having held off the enemy's cav, are hit by another cavalry-infantry combined charge. Importantly, the enemy's general's cavalry come in to engage here, so we've got a chance to take him out if these spear units, which are low on men, can hold. You can see the enemy are kind of breaking through and starting to surround them there, so it's a little bit dangerous. More cavalry and infantry piling in against the Gothic warband. The warband will do okay against both since they have superior stats, but their low armor and health means their longevity isn't very good. These repeated attacks are going to grind my men down and allow the enemy to enter if we can't break their morale. We've got troops up here on the northern front who've just been taken out basically by enemy archer fire. Here we've got crossbow cav. Crossbows especially effective against heavy infantry. Firing here at the Legio, who have turned and used a shield wall to try and stop the enemy from killing them. We've already taken significant losses. They could break through with an attack easily there. The good news is that reinforcements are now approaching the part of the battlefield where they'll make a difference. They're advancing in battle formation, so the second they meet the enemy they can fight right away, and they're on course to intercept the enemy's infantry who are advancing towards the camp from their reinforcement position. Back in the camp, the enemy have broken through one of my units of Legio and now advancing with 2 healthy spear units into my unhealthy unit of Gothic warband deployed as a not particularly powerful reserve. They're a decent unit but probably won't be able to hold, so I had to use my general to bolster the numbers here and hope that the towers will help me out in this little engagement. On this approach, you can see these Gothic warband have got most of their numbers still alive and are successfully pushing back the enemy's cavalrymen and infantry, so that looks good. On this approach with the 2 spear units, the spear units are almost defeated. The morale's still good though, and the enemy have almost been defeated too. In particular, their general is killed in the melee somewhere at this point, and this makes a big difference. The rest of the men decide not to continue the fight without their general, even though they might have been able to break through, and the pressure's coming off at other battlefronts as well. The enemy just giving up on all the places where they looked like they were going to defeat her, so that's excellent news. More good news, the reinforcement army has distracted some of the enemy's heavy cavalry and has stood still to throw missiles at them, destroying them as the enemy attempts to charge me. Some of them make it through and do damage to the line, but the enemy is wiped out in the process of making this attack, and this is tilting the balance bar in our favour now. The army did have to stop to receive that charge, which means the enemy's infantry have gotten away and will be able to attack my camp before I can reinforce. But some further good news, the enemy's onagers, it appears, have glitched out. They're just not firing me at this point. They don't have all that much to fire out of Italy because the units closer to them have already been depleted by enemy missile fire. They're now falling back. I've taken so many losses to missile fire. I decided I'd just pull back to the middle of the camp and try and draw the enemy's missile units into the camp if I could to take more damage from my towers. We've got other problems with missile troops with the reinforcement army. This unit of crossbow cav has been coming in at point blank range and just shooting down my spearmen on the flank of the line while I wasn't paying attention. I finally noticed this when my unit is completely wiped out by this attack, the enemy having plenty of ammo so they could have gone on to do this again and again. I deploy my own cavalry, I've got some skirmish cav to try and chase them off, and I move hurlers to try and throw stones at these guys, but they're not going to be very successful. These mobile cav well able to dodge the hurlers' attacks. Back in the camp, the enemy's reinforcement infantry are now making their attack, supported by the reinforcing general who very kindly charges right through my stakes, killing a decent number of his own men. Now my Gothic warband must resist the enemy's attack. It's going to go okay based on the previous attacks by cavalry against the Gothic warband. It only really works when the enemy don't get a charge bonus. The Gothic warband can do okay in a static line, and I've got some dead units behind them to act as reserve. They're attacking a couple of other points on the camp as well, but they're sufficiently well defended that they're not going to get in, and on one of them there they actually give up and come back to support their general. But with the reinforcement army now pretty much free, we're about to massively outflank the enemy to the rear, so things are now looking fine. We've also cleared out the enemy's skirmishers with some camels, cavalry and those hurlers that I mentioned. Overall, it's now just a matter of clearing up the mess of the enemy. Some of their skirmishing infantry was hard to pin down, so my infantry are now just chasing them around, but their melee infantry is gone. You can see I sent one unit of cav towards the enemy's onagers who had, at the last moment in the battle, started firing at me. I thought I might be able to cheekily take them out while they were distracted, but of course the onagers switched targets to these cavalry, have taken heavy losses. They routed, came back from routing, and ordered them to have another go. They took heavy losses again, charging the onagers, but when they reached them, they were well able to just rout the few remaining crew members there, and that's the end of the battle. The rest of the enemy's forces have chain routed. It's all over. We'll chase down some of the skirmishers and spend some time trying to take out some of the more full strength units with the few remaining cavalry that I have. I need to inflict as many casualties as possible, of course, because the Sassanids have enough forces left that another battle is quite likely, but by the end of it, we've done good work. It's a heroic victory for the Gothic forces. A massive part of the Sassanids' invasion force has been defeated. Heavy losses on our side as well, but we are in a position to replenish losses while the Sassanids are not, so this is definitely going to tilt things in our favour back on the campaign map. Who can claim to know the mind of the Lord? There is only one man alive who has seen the Lord's vision clearly, but although I am not he, I am willing to believe that the Lord will not let the sour ambition of the East divert the flow of his history. No, I am more worried about threats from our own kin, the king's enemies at home, the nobles who do not realize that he does not have time to lavish them with praise and prizes. These strays are many, I'm beginning to appreciate this. Even Lord Guillemere grows quiet, ever absent from councils and court. It does not seem like him, as far as I remember him. The loss of his wife has taken a toll on his spirit, no doubt. But even he will be saved soon. So let's have a look at the battle results. The enemy army is heavily damaged in this engagement, many of their regiments gone, a couple of units dead on our side and a lot of units in the leading army being particularly depleted, but of course the enemy taking much more damage than us, a heroic victory overall, and we can take on troops to get a good number of those troops back actually, so those forces fall back. And then curiously, the forces standing off against Roderick further north also fall back. It seems this defeat causes them to just abandon their campaign entirely, so that saves a lot of trouble. The Atropatene forces that were moving towards Egica now start moving back east towards the islands of the Mediterranean, not really sure what they're up to. Macren takes one of the many long turns they've been taking recently. Their spies are up to no good. I think it's them responsible for my officers getting assassinated quite a lot. Then, this, out of nowhere, Macedonia declares war on us. They control only the end of Greece there. Not really sure what this war is about. Haven't really interacted with them in any way. You can see they didn't really have any diplomacy, except for the fact they're allied to the Western Germanic separatists, who I'm also at war with, so that's a possible connection. They even had a stack in my territory there, but they actually leave at that moment rather than attacking Tarentum. I think they want to escape its zone of control and go somewhere else. Now, in other news, a local settlement has been destroyed by the Huns, as it turns out. So the Huns are back nearby in Italy, still destroying Illyrian territory. So we're going to have to just continue to watch to the north and make sure they don't come down and cause any trouble. Those Germanic separatists still are just floundering in the sea, taking attrition, doing nothing, beginning to think they don't really have a game plan right now. They're at war with me, but not necessarily planning to actually attack my territory. And Guillemere is going to move down to Tarentum because the Macedonians might come around and make a port assault so they can avoid doing a siege at the walls. So having Guillemere inside will make that very hard. I can end the war with Macedonia quite easily by just having troops take their province there on the end of Greece. So I wanted to see if the Visigoths would be willing to join this war, because they might just be able to move down and take that territory. In fact, I think the Visigoths used to own the territory that Macedonia is in right now. I offered them a decent sum of money and they wouldn't go for it. I wasn't really that enthusiastic, so I didn't continue negotiations to try and force them into it. So now, back in Egypt, we've got those Sassanid armies left over from the battle who we need to clear up. So my stacks, now at much better health because of replenishment and recruiting more troops, are able to move in and start engaging them. The two armies are put together and now can be fought at once. You can see they both ran away, but they ran, still staying in reinforcement range of each other, so I can destroy them both at once with an auto-resolve balance bar really far in our favour. We'll wipe them out. So that means there are no longer any Sassanid forces in our territory. Their invasion has been repelled. We know a lot of their invasion forces are still alive because they just ran back over the border. So it doesn't mean we're not going to see them again, but it does mean I now have time to prepare adequate border defences to make sure they're not going to be able to get back in. I'm going to use 3 stacks and put them in fortified positions on the border here so the Sassanids can't get around my zones of control. Roderick's coming out to lead the defence. I'm going to use the forces I started recruiting in Alexandria, move them over, and then start recruiting more troops into them so they'll have a full stack. So we'll have 3 full stacks there. And then one of the other stacks that was coming up from the south is going to go back because we need forces down here just in case a naval invasion happens, as it tends to do over and over again, where someone just suddenly attacks one of the ports there. Moving on, Atropatene continue to move east, moving their fleet seemingly towards Caralis there, perhaps intending to land on the island. At least that's what they appear to be doing. Another long turn for Macran as their assassins get to work, and the Macedonian forces seem to sail south, not coming around towards Tarentum, but going really far south as if they're going towards Africa, an interesting move. Now I've got the research to allow me to upgrade some of my spearmen to Germanic spearmasters. I'm going to do this for Roderick because he's got an important army right now. Just improves their stats a bit and gives them a javelin to throw, which is particularly useful. So our defences are now being prepared here. I'm setting up a series of fortifications that are all in reinforcement range of each other and have zone of control sufficient to stop the enemy from getting into our lands. We're moving on again. You can see Vithercus has made pretty good progress. He's now coming up behind my defensive line, so he's made the majority of his journey at this point. He's probably just a few turns away on those quick roads going south from getting to the source of the Nile. Atropatene moved their fleet around to the east side of Caralis, not attacking the town, not 100% sure what they're doing, and Macedonia come off to the southwest. It seems they're either going to come round to the west of Italia or go for Syracuse. We also learn that the Huns have apparently moved away, so although we're being put under threat by these various marauding fleets, the Huns at least aren't going to get involved in Italia for now. You can see we've actually revealed the agent who's been doing all the annoyance against me. I need to move Amalric over to try and take him out, and on the way he's going to be able to have a little look at what's going on here just beyond our line of sight. There aren't any forces being built up that we can see here, so there's no invasion about to happen, but of course they could still be a little bit further away in the fog of war, so I'm going to probably go and have a little look in the near future. Atropatene land their forces in Caralis and then just stand out there in the countryside, so it seems they're going to come in for a land siege. At least that's the only thing they really can do right now. We'll have to prepare defences against that, but then Macedonia come around the edge of Italia and suddenly attack Rhegium. I should have seen this coming, and in fact I could have moved in the last turn Guylemir over to come and sit in Rhegium because the enemy didn't even have enough movement points to go back to Tarentum. I really wasn't paying close enough attention, and now because I've underestimated the enemy, we have this extremely difficult battle according to the balance bar, but I wanted to fight it anyway, especially because port defences tend to be a little bit easier than they look, and at the very least we can try and take out a couple of units so Guylemir can come in and finish them off next time. It is the responsibility of those who have to aid the lives of those who have not. The lands held by the Ostrogoths are many, while their people are few. So what is it they have provided to the people of this world who have nothing? War, death, envy. They have failed in their responsibility to the world they constantly claim to be saving. We have been approached by a tribe that has fled the wars of the barbarian north, seeking shelter in the Gothic lands. All they have been offered is a plot at sea in which to die. Seeing this, we can no longer tolerate the arrogance of the Ostrogoths. We do not have much, but we shall spend all we have to help these people, and punish the Gothic tyrants. Out of the mist comes the Macedonian fleet, heading straight for our port. Importantly, their fleet has been split up into several groups. That means there are only a few ships defending their general. So my starting ships, the garrison fleet, only light ships, are going to immediately head towards that group and see if they can isolate the general, who himself is here on this boat on the flank. The boat is filled with heavy infantry and our boats are only light infantry at best, so we don't have the best of hopes, but it should be possible, using the combined ships, to take out that ship as long as the other boats nearby don't get involved in the engagement. I'll start by using fire arrows. You can see they're actually firing at the wrong ship to start with. I need to target them to the general, but we'll focus on him to try and take him out. The rest of the units aren't important in the grand scheme of things. I've got units ready to defend the centre of the town as well. The enemy are starting their attack right away because they have pre-deployed cavalry, which my archers are trying to take out. I thought those archers were firing at nothing, but there was actually a little enemy down there on the road that I saw them take out. But anyway, my boat has now made its way up to the side of the enemy general's ship, and the crew have jumped aboard to start fighting with the enemy's Palatina guards. The enemy's troops are better than mine, and there's even more of them, but my troops are going to rely on a little bit of shock value to just suddenly make this attack, helped out by the fact that they are an actual naval unit, whilst the enemy, being a ground unit, are going to have seasickness penalties, reducing their skills. You can see they're already shaken from casualties sustained there, and the boat is starting to catch fire. The fire arrows starting to do some work. There's still not much fire damage having been inflicted though. Back in town, those pre-deployed cavalry have made an actual attack on my lines. They attacked a testudo with my legio, and I countercharged with my scout equites to try and drive the enemy's cavalry out. We were beating them. The enemy came in with skirmish cav here to throw javelins into the situation, which I think probably killed equal numbers of both sides. The enemy's cavalry rout, and now the enemy's skirmish cav run away, as my scout cav can just chase them down. Back out at sea, the enemy's general is killed in this melee, and at that moment my men managed to set fire to the enemy's ship, jumping with extreme strength and skill back onto their own ship to escape the flames, whilst the Palatina guards don't think of that idea and remain on the ship as it simultaneously burns and sinks to the bottom of the sea. So, we've wiped out a unit of enemy heavy infantry and killed their general. This means all of the troops that land from now on are going to have reduced morale, and there's quite a lot of them, so that's going to be quite useful. This is really all we have going for us right now. The landings are now beginning. They're landing in several points all along the beach and the various points of the dock. The Comitatensis spear unit is the majority of their force. Not particularly good, but we don't really have anything better than it to fight it with. So their sheer numbers here will work to their advantage. The survivors on my ship crew are going to try and make another cheeky attack, this time landing on the boat of some pikemen. Knowing that the pikes can't actually deploy their full strength on a boat, I was hoping my guys would be able to actually quite easily beat these guys in melee, so despite their massive numerical disadvantage, would win out in this little bit of the fight. And you can see they're doing okay to start with, cutting down the unarmoured and poorly armed enemy troops on that boat. The announcer there wrongly informing me of ambushes. Basically, the enemy forces are landing their forces and coming out of the mist to attack the actual town itself. They've got a decent advantage over us, of course, but we have defenders' advantage, so I'm not hugely worried and willing to let their attack play out as it is. Back at sea, my crewmen are unfortunately defeated by the pikemen. Despite the boat being covered in enemy bodies, we killed loads of them, but they were just gradually killing us, and again it was advantage of numbers that won out. So our ships are routed, and the land battle is now going to begin. The land battle doesn't really look like it's going to go in our favour. The enemy have a definite advantage in terms of how many armoured units they have that we're going to struggle to kill. But I did get one early jab off successfully against the enemy. They isolated a unit of hurlers, and my scout equites, who were sneaking around the town, were able to make a very quick attack, routing this unit before the enemy could turn their spears to come and reinforce. So, a nice early blow, but of course the enemy have all the cards in this battle, and it's time for our Comitatensis spears to fight against theirs. No advantage for either side really, and the enemy have more men to replace their losses, but their morale is low, and that is the key weakness of the enemy I'll be trying to exploit next time. Thanks for watching. We'll have more of that battle, and Vithercus has a few questions for the Lord in the next episode of The Second Messiah.